Hey guys, it's Nick from Surf Fishing in SoCal. Today we're kind of just going to do a general rundown on surf fishing in San Diego. We'll go step by step, literally from start to finish, getting our bait to getting our fish. So let's get into it. Look at that. Oh, my huge spot fin right there. There's 3 of them right there. Come on. There we are. This is insane. Now step 1 is getting sand crabs. I'll leave a link to a description of a detailed video on how to find sand crabs, but bottom line, you're looking for these exact indents in the sand here. These look like a bunch of babies. You can see how small the little V's are. If I scoop right here with my dollar store colander, you can actually see a couple of them running around. Now if we sift this out, we've got our bait. Now most of these are a bit small, but to be perfectly honest, 4 of these on a hook, 3 of these on a hook, you're gonna be catching fish, okay? That's as big as I'll use. So for more details on that, check out the link in the description, and maybe I'll drop a tag in there. All right, so once you got your sand crabs, you got your bait for the day, you're ready to go, we'll get into our rig. So we're gonna be using a Carolina rig, and I will drop a link to the video I did on how to tie a Carolina rig in the description. But bottom line, this is a number 2 mosquito hook tied with a clinch knot, about 2.5 feet of 15-pound fluorocarbon, tied to a size 7 barrel swivel. And some of the brand sizes are different, but it's about 11 to 12 millimeters, I believe. Then we tie it off to we'll tie it off to 15-pound mono, but the 15-pound mono right here, we've got a bead in between the weight, and that bead is just there to protect that knot from this weight's edges rubbing it around. So that's the gist of the Carolina rig. You can see I'll run through it here. We've got our hook right there in my finger. And I'm using an 8'6" rod. You can see the specs there, but it's an Okuma SST 8'6" medium action, 8 to 17 pounds, 1/4 to 5/8 ounces in terms of the lure. The reel today, I'm just using the Pursuit because I was actually guiding earlier, and I don't like to have clients use my best stuff because a lot of times it drops into the water. I typically use a Battle 4000 or a Spinfisher 6 4500. And that's the Battle 4000 I use for Carolina rig stuff, the Spinfisher I use for lures. But that's the gist of the gear we're using, that's the gist of the bait we're using. Now we're gonna get to fishing. So out here there's not a whole lot of structure today, but I've been hooking up left and right on yellowfin croaker, and that's gonna be one of the most common species you'll catch in San Diego. And the ticket has been, 1, these soft-shelled sand crabs. So I'll show you here. You got these really translucent, nice soft-shelled sand crabs. That is going to get hit. So I'll just hook it right through the shell there. And that's too big. I'm gonna do 2 more on the hook. So I'll do this guy, and I'll even do one of these tiny little guys. You know what? I'll do 2 of them. So that's 4 sand crabs on a hook. And I mean, I try all sorts of different things throughout a day, but today this is what's been working. So we'll throw this guy out there. And right around sunset, full casts have been tending to work really well. So I'm just hucking it as far as I can. That's not always gonna work. you kind of got to figure out what's working that day. But I'll hook it out there. And all I'm doing now is keeping tension. Current's a little bit bad, so we're kind of moving south with it. And I'm just keeping tension throughout it, waiting for that bite. Bite will usually start a little subtle, and then it'll turn into a and the rod tip will start bending over. And that's when you set into it. And all you're doing from then is, again, keeping tension. So tension is always key, whether you're feeling the bite or whether you're fighting the fish. I don't know if you can tell, but I am walking to my left. I'm trying to stay steady for the camera. You're not always going to show up to perfect conditions, so best advice is when the current is running one way, get your bait out there, cast it in the opposite direction that the current is flowing, and then keep that directly in front of you. So once it catches up to you, you want to walk with it. And keep walking with it if you feel your zone is decent enough the whole way. Now I'm casting that out right. Flip my bail as soon as it hits, that way I don't have any excess slack. And I'm just keeping tension, waiting for that bite. And there it is. Just like that, we're on. So I'm gonna put my money on yellowfin croaker. Solid hit, very minimal on the fight. It's coming in pretty easy. A little bit of fight in there. And a good idea, this is a pretty small fish, but treat it like it's big. Work it in with the waves here. So it's fighting around there. As this wave helps me in, I'll walk it back. And always try, and if it's a decent enough fish, you kind of want to just beach it. So you keep that rod tip low as you bring them in. And that's a good way to not lose fish. Whenever you lift it up like this, you basically present an opportunity for the fish to pop off, because fish are heavier out of the water than they are in the water, at least in terms of in correlation to our line. But right there is a yellowfin croaker, pretty fish. You can see it's named very descriptively. Till it's centered back. So we'll keep doing the same thing, rinse and repeat. And I mean, it really is as simple as that. You can get technical as heck, and sometimes spotfin and corbina are running pretty good in the shallows, but right now they're just not. And there's certainly a possibility a spotfin or big corbina is hanging out where I'm casting right now, but all I'm doing is taking my odds, fishing to the conditions, and putting my bait in the best percentage spot. And the other thing, never set the hook too early. A lot of guys, that's their first mistake. You'll feel that tit, 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 tit. Don't set the hook then, because the fish is just playing with the bait. Don't set it until it turns from a tit, tit, tit to a tit, 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 just like that. Wow, that couldn't have been any better. This is a bit better of a fish. I'm still betting yellowfin croaker, but definitely a better size than the last one. So that one barely had the first dip dip. It kind of just went straight into the full take. And again, since this is a bit bigger, I'm gonna be nice and careful with it. We're kind of in a standstill right now, and then that wave right there just picked me up. So I'm gonna bring him in with the wave. And it is another yellowfin croaker. Now the other thing that we didn't talk about much in this video, and we won't, is reading the surf. And again, there's a link in the description for reading the surf, the video that I did on that. The only reason we're not doing it today is because there is just about nothing to read today. The surf is pretty flat, but obviously the fish are still there, they're still biting. But the idea behind reading the surf is you're looking for all those troughs, those scallops, those deep pockets that typically are points where rip currents might form and where water just generally gets sucked into and over. And the reason they're good for fishing is because bait gets sucked into those, and corbina and spotfin like to cruise into those areas, so do yellowfin croaker. And they will either cruise through those areas or hang out in them, depending on the size of them. And they will just feed on whatever gets sucked in there, including your bait. So that is why you should definitely check out that video on reading the surf.